Hello and welcome to Ken's Garage. This is part 2 of a video series of the Factory 5 818 build. In part 1, I kind of introduced the car, and again it's a kit car that comes from Factory 5, a company in Massachusetts, where they have their own design in the kit, and then you buy a Subaru WRX, you take out the engine, the transmission, the electrical system, and other components, and basically put the two together to build your car. It's called the 818. In this particular video, I'm going to show you the completed car. We'll take a look at the outside of the car. We'll take a look at the interior and some of the things I did to customize it. And then we'll take it on a test drive. So you'll get to see how the car drives. And to be honest, it's pretty noisy inside. So hopefully you'll enjoy that. And then I'll kind of talk about some of the features I added and then some of the challenges I had along the way. So let's get started. Before I preview the car, I want to acknowledge a special helper that helped me while working on the car. Our granddaughter Ariana loves the car and when visiting wanted to sit inside to pretend drive, push all the buttons, and perform a quality control inspection. By the smile on her face, it appears I have passed quality control. At this point, we'll start the walk around of the 818. Just a note, the body parts on this car, the fender, the doors, the rear hatch, the hood, the roof, are all separate pieces made out of fiberglass gel coat. And they're in a kind of a rough state, so you have to sand them down here and there, and to fit them, there's some modifications you have to do to make sure they fit correctly. So that's a bit of a challenge when putting this car together. I did opt to have these separate pieces painted. I had it painted in Mako. They did a pretty good job and the price was pretty decent. Okay, we'll start the walk around at the front of the car. Here you get a good look at the front grille. I did add these fog lights to the front grille. I also added this spider emblem. Now you may be asking, what's the deal with the spider emblem? Well, as I was working on the car this past winter, every day I came out here, when I started working on it, a little spider would appear, kind of watch me work on it, and then disappear back into the car. So that's the story behind the spider emblem, and decided to turn this into the spider car. These front vents are from a company called Zero DB Motorsports, and I've got a couple other, they're an aftermarket company that makes parts for the Factory 5 818. I've got some other parts in here as well that I'll show here in a minute. As we walk around the side, you'll notice the doors. Now the doors were quite a challenge. They don't exactly fit perfectly. It takes a lot of work to get them to fit and not rub. And then once you get the doors to fit, you've got to get the glass mounted inside the door to properly close up and down and to get that aligned. So anybody that's built one of the Factory 5 818s will sympathize with the challenge that the doors present. We'll now make our way to the back of the car. Just a note here on these rear tail lights. I didn't really care for the design that Factory 5 had and the tail lights that they included, so I decided to modify the tail lights. I was kind of looking for a Italian sports car look with two round tail lights on each side. I did look for some Lotus Elise lights, which are really nice lights. Unfortunately, they were about $1,000 a piece. So I opted for these round lights. I found these on Amazon. These are truck trailer lights. They're not perfect, but they seem to work out pretty good. Also here I have a rear camera on the back that serves as both a rear view mirror and also helps with parking, which I'll demonstrate here when we look at the interior. Over here you can see where I routed the exhaust out. A lot of guys choose different ways to do that, but this seemed to work pretty good for me. As mentioned before, this car has a rear engine. This is a 2.2 liter Subaru turbo. Comes out of the Subaru WRX. It does get a little hot back here. I need to work on some airflow specifically for this turbo intercooler here. I'll now open up the hood and we'll take a look at what's under the hood. Okay, here's the 818 with the hood up. I decided to use the 0DB Motorsports hinges, which are really nice. And that allows you to do more of a clamshell type hood where it folds up. As you can see, there's really not much under the hood. Basically, you have a battery and you have your radiator, so not much under here. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of room for storage either, so space is pretty limited in this car as far as storage. We'll now move on to the interior of the car. One of the nice parts about the kit is you can really customize your car the way you want it. So where I probably customize the most is on the interior. And to demonstrate that, I'll show you a couple of the key areas that I customize. Let's take a look at the interior quickly here. There is not a lot of room in here. When you get in, it kind of feels like you're in the cockpit of a fighter jet. So not a lot of room, and you're pretty low to the ground. As far as customization, I used a lot of vinyl wrap on some of the aluminum pieces. So as an example, this is an aluminum piece here, wrapped it in this vinyl, and then I found a couple letters to create this 818 emblem. I found those on Amazon. So when you're building these cars, Amazon and eBay are your friend as far as getting different pieces that you'd like to customize, bolts, nuts, just anything that you need as you go along building it. Also used parts, so if you need a part from the Subaru that you didn't have, you can typically find those on eBay. As we look inside, I did, again, this applique on the dash is from 0DB Motorsports, so that adds a nice touch. And then the shifter is a aluminum piece that comes from Factory 5 that you can order separately. I did use quite a few of the Subaru parts. So as an example, these HVAC vents are from the Subaru. This piece is from the Subaru. The door handles, and then the electronics for the mirror and the door lock. I tried to keep all of the wiring harness from the Subaru to basically use the power door locks, power windows, power mirrors, and keep all that functionality there, as well as courtesy light. One of the other things I added to the vehicle is this infotainment system. It has pretty much everything you can imagine. Radio, Apple CarPlay, you can put a USB stick in with your own selection of music, maps, YouTube. It has a torque app which actually shows you what's going on with the engine, plugs right into the engine computer, kind of shows you what's going on, and records everything that's going on with the engine. The other piece that's nice to have is a rear cam. So instead of a rear view mirror, you can use the rear camera as your rear view mirror while you're driving. Another cool feature is the ability to see exactly where you're at. So this is high definition surround. Kind of shows you where you're at when you're backing up, and it shows you a picture of the car, so you know exactly where you're at from a bird's eye view as you're parking. A couple other features I added I wanted to share here. One is some courtesy lights. I added these to both door panels just to give it more of a modern sports car look. They're kind of nice to have when you're driving at night. In addition, I added a light under the passenger side panel here, just as an extra light if you need it. And then, of course, I've got heated seats in here. So this concludes the interior. Now let's get to some fun, and the next section we're going to be going on a test drive. We'll start the drive on some winding roads. The drive is in the foothills outside of Eagle, Idaho, a suburb of Boise. North of here, we start getting into the mountains, and south of here is high desert plains. This road also leads up to a nice winery called Three Horse Ranch, and there are a few houses on the hillsides. So far, the handling feels exceptionally well, and I feel total control and traction in the curves. The 2.2-liter Subaru turbo engine has good acceleration and generates about 200 horsepower in a car that weighs in at around 2,000 pounds. You will hear the turbo kick in when accelerating. As mentioned, the car's engine is in the rear and literally behind the cabin. As a result, you do get a fair amount of engine noise in the cabin. Also, you may be hearing an occasional clicking sound. These are small rock chips being kicked up into the fender wells from the tires. I put some really grippy, soft rubber tires on the car, and they really grab the road as well as the rock chips.
does not have power steering and power brakes. Steering feels really good when cruising, but a bit challenging when turning from a park position. While you need to press hard on the brake pedal, it does stop fairly quickly. The car has the original WRX braking system with upgraded pads, and is designed to stop a 3,500-pound car as opposed to a 2,000-pound car, so braking feels more than adequate. I'm now heading back home. One thing you can count on in Idaho is you'll see all kinds of things on the road here other than cars and trucks. Horses, UTVs, ATVs, golf carts, you name it.
This wraps up the video series on the 818 build. I hope you found it informative. From my standpoint, I think when I look at the project, I found it rewarding, but at the same time a bit of a challenge. It took me much longer than I thought, most of it due to other priorities in my life. But I finally got it done and I'm happy about that. I do have some other projects I'm going to be working on here shortly. The first one is a 2015 Arctic Cat Wildcat side-by-side UTV. Now I bought this vehicle about a year ago and it needs quite a bit of work. It runs, but it needs quite a bit of work, so I'm going to be rebuilding it from top to bottom. The second one, which is interesting, is a 1967 Mercury Cougar GT Big Block. I just bought that about a year ago as well. Pretty good shape, but it's still going to need a full rebuild, so probably get to that after I do the Arctic Cat side-by-side. Stay tuned, and thanks for watching.